Hi, and welcome to the Lean BJJ podcast, where we explore the intersection of technology, martial arts, specifically in the form of Jiu-Jitsu, and personal growth. In this episode, I sit down with John Smallios, founder of Higher Jiu-Jitsu and a black belt Jiu-Jitsu instructor, to explore the inspiring history and founding of an iconic gym here in Sydney. We discuss the gym's interesting roots, which started about a decade ago as a so-called Jiu-Jitsu commune, open mat, or a free event at a local community center where people gathered to practice this relatively new martial art. I like to call this the version 1.0 of what would be a top-rated, world-renowned Jiu-Jitsu gym here in Sydney. We follow John's journey in Jiu-Jitsu and touch on how the principles of the martial art can be applied to all aspects of life. Join us for an insightful conversation with John about becoming a founder and how one man's passion helped create a strong community of over 150 everyday people learning Jiu-Jitsu in the heart of Sydney to improve the quality of life on and off the mats. We're here. See those sexy legs? That's okay. It's not too obscene, is it?
Hello. Winston, we've been talking about this podcast for a long time.
Yes.
And we're here in the flesh right now, right here.
Right here, right now, in this moment. Welcome everyone to the Lean BJJ podcast. And just here with my good friend, mentor and professor of Jiu-Jitsu, Professor John Smallios. Is that how you say it? Smallios?
John Smallios.
Smallios! Okay, that's on the record.
It's been butchered many times and in many ways.
I'm so sorry, John.
No worries, it's technology.
Professor John Smallios.
Smallios.
Smallios. Sorry.
Very good, buddy.
Okay, and he runs the Higher Jiu-Jitsu gym in the PCYC of Sydney. And sorry, can you please remind me what PCYC stands for?
PCYC is a police community youth centre. So for many, many years, PCYC was there. It was a spot where the local kids can integrate themselves with the police. Yeah, and the mission of PCYC is to empower young people, and essentially it's getting kids off the streets and into some solid programs.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
So, were you someone like that, a kid on the streets, and you found PCYC? How do you find it?
I've been going to PCYCs because I'm born and raised in Sydney, so there's PCYCs all around Sydney. So as a kid, I lived in Elwood, and there was a Marrickville PCYC, so we'd always get down there and play basketball and play indoor soccer and.
With the police or just with kids?
Just sometimes with the school, because I went to school in Marrickville as well. So and sometimes just with our friends. There was 5-a-side soccer tournaments happening all the time. And then I went to PCYC Belmore to learn boxing when I was 15, 16.
Oh wow!
That didn't work out. That wasn't the greatest, but
why?
Oh, there was just no real program. There was no real boxing program. As a kid, I really wanted to start some kind of combat sport. Boxing I thought was the one, but then I went to PCYC Belmore. Went a few different places for boxing lessons, classes, and all I got was a fitness class, and then some of BCYC Belmore was all right, you're here to learn boxing, okay, go punch that bag. And I did that 3 times, they just left me. So and I was there punching the bag for an hour and looking around no one's around. I'm okay, I think the guys are gone now. I think that's my lesson for today, just go punch the bag. So I kind of gave up after a few attempts.
So what do you do next?
Then I went to PCYC Rockdale, and that's where the Zoo Boxing Academy is.
Oh, okay. You got another boxing academy. You really like boxing.
I really liked boxing as a kid, and I wanted to get into it. So all the PCYCs are intertwined with boxing.
I see.
Boxing is kind of the traditional sport in PCYC.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then, didn't work out in Rockdale. And then found myself here in Woolloomooloo, the PCYC in Woolloomooloo.
I see.
And yeah. 10 years later, here we are.
Wait, so did you establish Higher Jiu-Jitsu at PCYC Rockdale too, or just here in Woolloomooloo? How do you come to Woolloomooloo?
I didn't really even know about Woolloomooloo, to be honest, before I came here. And funny story, I was in Greece when I was about 24, 25, and 20, it's probably about 2010 maybe. Anyways, no, a little bit later than that. And I found a good friend over there, Johnny Karafalakis, and he's from my island. We're like from the same island, and I had a few weeks on the island of Galimnos in Greece, and he was there for a long time as well.
Okay.
So we just started hanging out, spending time at the beach together, just like chilling, and he worked at the PCYC in Woolloomooloo.
Oh, I see.
And so for the weeks that we were hanging out in Galimnos, I wouldn't stop talking about jiu-jitsu because it's just what I loved at the time, and it was my entire life. And he was telling me, he goes, John, man, he goes, Bruno Alves, who runs SJJ Crow's Nest now and the entire Sydney Jiu-Jitsu Academy, or the association there, he used to be a part of PCYC Woolloomooloo. He was running a Gracie Baja in that room. But a year before that, he'd left to start up his own school in Crow's Nest.
I see.
And it wasn't being used anymore. So Johnny was like, man, you sound like you love jiu-jitsu and you want to do something. Come, when we head back to Sydney, he goes, come visit me at Woolloomooloo and I'll show you the space. And if you like it, like, get something going.
Wow.
And that was a time, I was a purple belt, so I knew I always wanted to start an academy. From the moment I started jiu-jitsu, I was like, this is the best, this is my whole life.
Yes.
And I knew like eventually like that would mean starting an academy. I didn't want to start it so soon though.
Yeah.
But then I really ruined my shoulder. And then my competition aspirations kind of fell by the wayside.
Where were you training at this time?
I was training at SPMA. So coaches Anthony Perosh and Ova Sinezic. So Sinezic Perosh Martial Arts it was at the time, SPMA.
And that is which location? Sorry, I'm new. Actually, not been in Sydney for 3 years and still really catching up to speed with the higher.
That's all right. It's in Concord. It was in Concord, and now they ended up splitting. Elvis and Anthony, and Elvis went to Moorebank, which is out west, more Liverpool way, and Anthony's in 5 Block now. Yeah. So that was cool, and I was training there at the time, but then I completely hurt my shoulder. I needed 6 to 8 months off, pretty much, just to get a full recovery going. And it was never ever to be the same again. And I went back and things didn't feel the way they I didn't like how things felt. And I'd always sought to start something.
Yes.
And sometimes opportunities don't come at the right time, and but I thought it's just exactly what I wanted to do, and it was a beautiful little room in there, and I thought, man, why not? Let's just kind of go with it and see what happens.
Yeah. And
that was actually 10 years ago. It was 2014. So I'd say 2014 was a time I went and saw Yanni and John in Greece.
See.
Around that time, that was the trip.
Yanni, again, he works at the PCYC in Woolloomooloo?
He worked there, yeah. He was working there as an assistant. He became the manager for a little bit of time. And now he's not working there anymore, but he told me to come in, and I went up and had a look, and it was just a beautiful room. You've seen it. It
was set up this way, the current way it is?
There were there were mats, there were decent mats. The Gracie Baja boys, I think, had come together to donate and bought mats for the PCYC.
And they was running the gym there?
There was no one running the gym. That room, there was a little Aikido crew that were doing Aikido once or twice a week for an hour in the room, and no one else was using it. It was empty. So I came in there, I was like, wow, this looks cool enough, and it's right in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
And there's mats, they weren't the greatest, they were the jigsaw mats. So we lost, many a toe were broken on those mats, because they'd get stuck in between them.
Oh, shoot.
But that's just jigsaw mats.
The
jigsaws, right?
The jigsaw mats, man. They're this thick.
Yeah.
Like what?
No, they were pretty thick. They were nice and thick, but they still hurt. They're nothing like what we had. So for the first few years, though, we had jigsaw mats, and
now you have, what are the mats in the Higher Jiu-Jitsu?
They're Zebra Regipole mats that we got, which are...
They're harder a little bit than the usual jiu-jitsu
Now
gym?
they're softer.
Softer.
The Zebra has another version that's even harder. So when we had Sydenham, we had the harder version of those mats in Sydenham. Those beautiful mats, like probably the most quality mats you can get. But some of them.
How do you find these mats? Like they're really quintessential for Higher for some reason. It's all blue. Many other gyms are like white or black, no, grey.
Yeah.
How is it? Did it come to be?
What
the whole like gym? Like
gym?
Yeah. How do you decide
Um,
everything?
I don't know. We haven't made that many changes to it, really. Like
Those mats were new though, right?
no, yeah, they were new mats, and so what happened was we put out a little fundraiser together, and the goal was we had we had about 60 mats to buy to fill up the room.
Yeah.
So we offered it out, and I think there were about 30 students who took up the option of buying a mat
Oh shit.
and being a part of like history.
No way.
Yeah.
So is their name somewhere?
If you lift the mats up, everyone's written their name underneath the mat.
So how much did each mat cost that day?
Back then it was about 150, but now they're about 250 each.
Wow.
Yeah, but they're great mats, and you'll have them for a very long time, and that's why I'm very careful with them, and don't let anyone with zippers on there, and you got to be really careful. But they're beautiful mats. They're great. Yeah, and that's how we came to be at the PCYC.
Interesting. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So we talked a bit about your how the Higher Jiu-Jitsu has really come to be, and like it's what 10 years you said since you.
Well, 10 years, but
So 2014.
well, 2014 we went in there,
And then
and it wasn't Higher Jiu-Jitsu though. Like we started as not knowing who we were, what we were doing, really. But I knew that I loved Jiu-Jitsu, and I knew that a lot of other people loved Jiu-Jitsu,
Yeah.
and we had the best time on the mats.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start something not as a coach, but as a facilitator of people just enjoying themselves on the mats. And I didn't know what that looked like at the time. It wasn't really an academy. Like I didn't think I was ready to start an academy, and I wasn't really. Like I
All right. So
didn't want to lead. I didn't want to coach people. I didn't want to be an instructor like
Why
at the
not?
time, because I was a purple belt, and I didn't have. I had more things to do. Didn't have the rank. Like I didn't have the curriculum.
How many years were you training until you got your purple?
Probably about 7-8 years till I got my purple.
At Perosh.
Yeah, being at Perosh, it was about 7 years.
So when you started, then if you know you were not leading, who was leading then?
Well, that's the thing. Like maybe being younger and being a little bit more, having a cool imagination, and being ready to explore lots of different things and new styles and new ways of doing things. I thought of a way. I was wondering how we could bring everyone together in a way that allowed people to have effective, good, solid training, and not where like an instructor told you what to do and you had to do it, but a way that we can kind of just come in and enjoy.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a school. It was tough at the time. I didn't know how to do it. So
You just ran it, and like, how do you run the class then?
well, it was a beautiful natural evolution, because we started as the Jiu-Jitsu commune.
Really?
Yeah, we were the commune for the first couple of years, the Jiu-Jitsu commune, and we'd come in, we'd do open mats, 90-minute open mats from 12:30 till 2, and from 5:30 till 7.
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
That's how it started.
That was nuts.
Because Johnny came, I remember Johnny, like, he goes, okay, and Vic who works there now, they go, okay, like, what do you want from the, what do you want the hours to be? Like, how many hours do you want the room for? And I said, let's do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12:30 for the lunch, for the people who are working in the city to come in and get some lunch, some training during their lunch break, and then after work, the 5:30 crew. I had a job at the time. I was working with my dad.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even told him. I hadn't thought about it. I didn't know how I was gonna like fund this. I had no idea. But I just said, "Yep, let's do it." 12:30, 5:30, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So then they're like, "Okay, fine." And then I started like a school, and then Oscar came in, and Maddie Bunza came in, and like a whole bunch of other. Slowly, man, it just started building up, and it started off as open mats. Yeah.
That is genius.
Genius.
It's just like it's just in a garage. Come over. Let's train instead of the garage. You're training at the PCYC.
Yeah, like that's what I wanted for it, and it was cool. But the problem, we ran into some
cool
problems.
stuff. Yeah, well, tell me.
The problems were that I remember like a few newbies came in.
Yeah.
They're like, because we had jiu-jitsu online in Google jiu-jitsu. Oh, there's commune right there. I was like, okay, sweet. So not only would you get seasoned practitioners, people with experience, but slowly some beginners started trickling in.
Yeah, why not?
And they're looking at me like, we're here to learn jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, oh.
Then you got your students.
Well, it came naturally because I didn't know what to do with them really, because it was an open mat.
Yeah, so what did they do?
There wasn't any class happening.
Did they get like smashed?
Initially, they were getting smashed, and no one was there to really, we're teaching them, oh, here's a hip escape, and go do it, and then we just wanted to grapple.
Yeah, man, I bet they had fun though.
It was fun times, no doubt there were fun times at the start.
Yeah.
But the learning structure wasn't really there.
Yeah.
And
okay.
That became the issue.
Okay, so then how do you resolve it then? Like what year was this like when you slowly evolved?
Well, 2014 was the commune.
Yes.
Again, like I had many ideas about it. I wanted to turn it into like a not-for-profit. I wanted to turn it into like, like a bit of a co-op where, there's like a profit sharing structure, like many different like ideas that we had going through, but then we had to pay rent, like that was a thing. And then our students had to start learning, so how do you get people to learn?
Yeah.
You have to run like a class per se, where the goal of the class isn't for people just to grapple, but it's for people to learn jiu-jitsu.
Together, right?
Well, yeah, as it's a group, so like that means, coordinating a whole group of experienced people and newbies. Wow. So some of these experienced people, like they were there sometimes to just train and go home, but some of them were there and they wanted to be a part of something too. And the commune became a thing, it became a community of people. Yeah. And the funny thing was, as a purple belt, not really knowing where we were going with all this, it became a lot clearer when just randomly one day I was getting ready, I was trying to do some work and I was getting ready to come for the lunch class, and I got a phone call from a US number, Hawaii number. And go, hello, who's this? He goes, hey, is this John? This is Steve Maxwell. I'm a 5th degree black belt under Helson Gracie. I own the first jiu-jitsu school on the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. I was like, what? I'm like, Steve Maxwell? I'm like, of course I know who you are. Like, I've followed Steve Maxwell for a long time. Do you know, are you aware of Steve Maxwell?
I am getting aware now. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Who is he in relation to?
Steve Maxwell is one of the OGs of jiu-jitsu, right? And he's current, I think he must be close to 70.
From Helio.
Well, he trained with Helio, but he started, it was in Philadelphia, and he had a school called Maxercise, was like a strength conditioning facility. He was one of the first to bring the kettlebell to prominence in America. It was like Pavel Satulin.
No way.
He'd tell you a lot more about it, Steve, but there was a few like real OGs in the kettlebell community, and Steve was one of them.
Nice.
OGs in strength and conditioning, and that was Steve.
Yeah.
Steve helped bankroll the first couple of UFCs with Hori and Gracie.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he called you.
And then he was training and he found this training with Helson Gracie. And then.
So did he found like a lineage as well, or?
Yeah. So he's under Helson Gracie, but I think they had a bit of a spat. I don't know who he's under now anymore, but like.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, like he came in, he called me, and he goes, "Hey, I'm in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I'm a 5th degree black belt, and I'd love to teach your class." He goes, "What's your rank?" I go, "Man, I'm a purple belt. Like I'm just trying to get things going here." He goes, "If you like, I can teach for you." He goes, "I've had about 30 years on the mats. I'm really good at teaching."
Crap.
And I'm like, okay, if fucking come in and teach.
Oh yeah.
And then whilst he was here, because he has a pump on Instagram.
Yeah.
He'd put it on Instagram, teaching today at Higher Jiu-Jitsu, Jiu-Jitsu commune, PCYC, Woolloomooloo.
Yeah.
He'd call it the PYC way. For years and years I know him, was telling him about the PCYC, the PYC way, the PYC way. All right, Steve, it's the PYC way. So he started bringing a whole bunch of people in, like everyone. It kind of put us on the map because from having 3 and 4 and 5 people showing up to train, like we started getting 20 and 30 people in one lunch class, and they were all coming here to see Steve.
Oh, right.
And I was like, wow, okay. And some of them we met each other, and then they're like, hey man, do you do classes? I'm like, yeah, we do classes, and they jumped on as well. So it really helped put us on the map a little bit.
So this is 2016 or something?
Yeah, I'd say it was about 2015, 2016.
And then after that, so it grew from that, and that, at what point do you decide, how did it evolve after all this international, American, fame, in a way, or understanding from the States? How do you come into the Petro Sour, found a Petro Sour gym? Actually, that's probably my leading question.
Yeah. No, well, how did it progress?
Yeah.
It progressed because as a purple belt, Steve, I guess, took a liking in me. Thanks, Steve. But he goes, "Hey, John, come. I'm gonna pay your flight and your maybe not my flight, my accommodation." He goes, "I need a helper in Melbourne. I've got a few seminars in Melbourne. Come with me to Melbourne." For a few days. I'm like, okay, mad. So I went with him, and we went, I was on the tour with him, his little tour, and we went to 3-4 different gyms. We went to Dave Christick's Academy in Templestowe. Yeah. We met Chris Burns on that trip, and we went to KMA, his old place where he used to teach, KMA I think it was, Krav Maga or something. And on that trip I also met Phil Grapsis for the first time. And I went as Steve's assistant, and I met Phil at the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Templestowe seminar.
In 2000
in probably 2016 or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, Steve was asking me some weird questions. He goes, "John, what's your birth date?" He goes, "Were you born in the morning or the night?" Turns out that Steve was he was speaking to his good friend. He's an astrologist.
Yes.
Good friend is Robert Katoch.
Okay.
And if you go on the Joe Rogan podcast, Steve was on the Joe Rogan podcast twice, I think.
Yes.
And the second time they went really into depth about this fella, this astrologist, Robert Katoch.
Okay.
And Joe Rogan was ripping into Steve about, this guy's a charlatan, why are you listening to him, Yeah. But it's Steve's thing, and it's Steve's missus' thing, and, they'd always be speaking to this astrologist, and it's just how they live their life. They weren't harming anyone, they weren't hurting anybody, so, I don't know, you can judge that conversation for yourself, but...
So he asked you about your birth date.
He asked me,
and that's how he decided you're going to be the founder.
No, yeah, well, he put me onto him. He goes, "Hey, speak to our astrologist. He has something to say." So I started speaking to this fella, and he had a really, really weird, deep voice.
Okay.
And he was saying, he told me a few things, and they really hit home.
Okay.
And I don't know, I've never believed in astrology, I don't know, I don't disbelieve it, but I've never really been into astrology. I've never been into tarot cards reading and.
But this guy, he talked to you, and I'm
not a very superstitious person, right? But but he said a few things. He goes, you've got 2 very strong women in your life. He started delving. I was thinking about it. Okay. He goes, and the other thing, he goes, you think of democracy as something it's not. He goes, you think that back in times of in Athens, years ago, ancient times, that Athens was a democracy. He goes, it wasn't. He goes, there's always been leaders who have had more power than other people to guide things, to direct things.
Okay.
He goes, there's no such thing as 100% democracy. Yeah. And it's true, in Athens it wasn't like that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
There was always the plebs, who were taking orders from the more powerful people.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And he said, this was years ago, right? So I'm kind of just putting it together again. But he goes, you need to step up and lead. He goes, there needs to be a leader. He goes, you're the leader. Step up. And that's how I took it anyway.
Wow.
And I put it together, and a couple other little situations around that time happened where we had beautiful moments of self-clarity, and times, and I just felt like at that time, Steve gave me my brown belt as well.
Oh, right.
At Higher, he goes, "I'm going to give you a brown belt." He goes, "I think you've earned it." He goes, "You've been teaching for 2-3 years." As I was a purple belt for 2-3 years, I didn't have any teacher to give me a brown belt.
Yeah. So you had a psychedelic experience that kind of like motivated. Just some really interesting, like very powerful experience that made you really think that I actually have to lead this, and that's when you decided to. Yeah.
Yes, there was a beautiful experience like that, and it helped me realize that this is what I love in my life. This is what I'm here for. Like, and I'm here to share the art of jiu-jitsu and help everyday people build quality of life. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's. If I'm honest with you, like, I went to the depths of my soul and I was like, I saw jiu-jitsu and I was like, okay, this is my life, you know. And Steve had given me the brown belt, and I'm like, you know what, this is it. Like, there's no more commune. Like, it's not like it's like I'm the head coach now because someone needs to take control of this thing that we have going, you know.
Yes.
And the commune wasn't gonna cut it, like, and so I was running in another business as a personal trainer and like nutrition coach that I'd called Higher Health.
Nice.
And I had the jiu-jitsu commune going and I had Higher Health going. And there was this kind of like barrier in my life between, you know, jiu-jitsu and between, you know, running a business in health and wellness and movements. And I didn't, for years, like I was kind of stuck. I didn't know how to put it together. And I saw the light and I said, okay, from now on, 2016, I remember the email I sent out, like, it's going to be Higher Jiu-Jitsu. And so I put them all together, and then here we are. That was in 2017.
Wow. Okay, 2 questions from that. One, when you're having this like higher level experience, did you foresee yourself as any form of animal? As
an animal?
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you, Winton, no, I didn't see animals. I saw like a lot of things, but like I just saw, man, it was a beautiful experience, and no, if I'm honest with you, I was on the. I just saw Oopers and hip escapes. Like, that's what I saw, man. That's what I saw.
That's cheeks. I love it.
Like, I was just at one with the ground and my body, and it's all I wanted. I was just thinking. It was just at the forefront of my mind and my.
And the second question is what inspired the name Higher Jiu-Jitsu? Like, how did it happen? Like,
Higher, because I think I've never been satisfied with where I'm at, and I think the goal is to seek like endless refinement.
Oh yeah,
that's what it is. Like, and I've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 16 years now, and I'm a first degree black belt, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. And I think I'm going to need another 30, 40 years on the mats to get to where I want to be. To be honest, like, after being here for so long, I've realized that I'm never ever going to be where I want to be on the mats.
Yeah.
Because you can't. Like, there's never perfection. So that's why, like, Higher is like to seek endless refinement.
That's lovely.
So we're always going higher. You know?
I love it.
That's how Higher came about in a couple of reasons. That was a solid one.
No relationship to this another jiu-jitsu gym here in Sydney. What, High Rollers? Yeah.
No. We've been high jiu-jitsu for a while, and they became High Rollers. That's Oli Silvestro, and they're pretty close to where I live. They're in Strathfield.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Nice guys.
Yeah, but no relation to the boys.
Yeah. So okay, we move into maybe just a few more. Maybe another question. If you like to describe your training philosophy for jiu-jitsu, what is it, and is it different for like adults and kids?
My training philosophy, I think, like, can I talk a little bit more about where it came from?
Yeah, sure.
When I started jiu-jitsu, I was at SPMA. It was at SPMA, and within 3 months, I was doing my first competition. Yeah. So for them, they had BJJ, they had Muay Thai, and then they had MMA. Yeah. So being like a combat sports enthusiast and loving like Rocky Balboa, and like I was watching The Ultimate Fighter, like, and I'd just been introduced to the UFC. I wanted to learn how to fight, right? Yeah. And so at SPMA, you did 3 months of BJJ, 3 months of Muay Thai, and then you could do the MMA class.
Oh yeah, nice.
Because I wanted to do MMA.
Yeah.
But after 3 months of doing jiu-jitsu, I'd already done my first tournament.
Yeah, nice.
And I knew, I realized just how much I sucked in jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to improve my jiu-jitsu first. So I went down the rabbit hole of competition.
Oh wow.
Like just competing all the time in jiu-jitsu competition. And then I went to, I really wanted to get to the bottom of it all and get really good really quick. So I went to Brazil and spent like about 7-8 months over there training with Ricardo Vieira and the Checkmate crew there in Copacabana and Rio de Janeiro. And a few other places. Like I traveled Brazil and I used like jiu-jitsu as an excuse to really, like I just go, like a vessel, that's a good way to put it. So I was very much in competition. I did Brasileiros there, I did Worlds a couple of times.
What was it like?
Worlds? Awesome, it was awesome.
Nice.
So I was very much in with with competition jiu-jitsu.
Cool.
And then when Steve Maxwell came around, Steve was the first person to introduce me to the idea of jiu-jitsu as being like self-defense in and of itself. I'd never seen a punch block in jiu-jitsu. I saw a couple headlock defenses, but they weren't very prominent for us.
Okay.
I'd never thought about, like headlocks in terms of strangle. I never thought about jiu-jitsu against an everyday person. I always thought about, I learned jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu to start. I learned it as a sport. I didn't learn it as as a means of self-defense. So when Steve came in and started showing us, technical stand-ups and maintaining distance and hands in front of your face and like all these fundamental aspects of jiu-jitsu as self-defense art, that got me, like, I realized just how oblivious I was. I'm like, I've been learning how to grapple this whole time, but if anyone, no doubt, before purple belt, you could have punched me in the face and I would have had a very little idea of what to do because I was very much a competition, like I was grappling I was grappling like BJJ. I'd always assumed the person was going to follow the rules of jiu-jitsu and that's how we're going to train. So when Steve came in and introduced me to self-defense, then I guess like that became, I started learning more about that, incorporating that. And then I see Pedro Sauer at a seminar and I became friends with him and I got involved in the Pedro Sauer Association. The entire whole Higher Jiu-Jitsu went down that route. And so I think
What year was it?
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Wow, so quick. Everything happened.
Well, 2016 we started Higher Jiu-Jitsu and then that's when I met Phil and Pedro. Yeah. And then by 2017...
Sorry? You started alone as a solo founder?
Of Higher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All of it, yeah. But yeah, in terms of the philosophy, that's, getting to this level, like my teacher, Master Pedro Sauer, has very much influenced my training philosophy, where I think we're seeking like effectiveness. We're seeking to stay safe, and I want us all to be on the mats and to stay on the mats.
Yep.
So sustainability is like critical there in that philosophy. Like I want us, that's why we're so careful with the culture that we set at Higher Jiu-Jitsu because we're everyday people that build quality of life with this art. We're not necessarily competition athletes. Sharpening the sword before the next World Championships.
Yeah, maybe we can speak a bit more about safety. So, what are some of the things that you think about, like to keep each other safe? Like, what some of the core principles if you just break it down?
Master Sauer, if I can take one of his stories, he's got many of them, but he says you got to treat jiu-jitsu like a hot bowl of soup. So when you got a hot ramen, hot pho soup, if you go straight into the middle, the moment it's served to you, come straight into the middle to the bottom of it and go to eat it, it's going to burn your mouth. So what you do with that hot bowl of soup is you go around the outside. So I think jiu-jitsu needs to be approached like that to some degree, where you just learn, you just get started slowly into the art, and you learn like your base, you learn distance, you learn how to connect, and you start understanding and feeling leverage in different positions, but you don't necessarily start fighting it like from the beginning. Master Pedro says, like, to let people grapple from day one is like getting a driver on their L plates and giving them the keys to a Formula 1 car. and saying, "Here you go, mate. Take the keys to the Formula One. If you get into any trouble driving it, just press the brake." Just a lot of times, what Jiu-Jitsu academies say, "Hey, man, this is grappling. Jump on. If you ever want somebody to stop, just tap on them."
Yep.
And it just becomes an absolute disaster because people start utilizing their brawn over their brains.
Yeah, technique.
Because that's just instinct. Instinct for the non-educated person is to employ force and to try to hold on for dear life. And it's the educated practitioner that understands how to frame, how to connect, and how to seek leverage. You know, so in terms of being safe, I think it's really important that we start slowly and then build slow and steady skills in order to minimize injuries and to protect yourself.
So is it like there are like some rules to do that? Like, hey, you can't roll before after 5 sessions of experiencing regular fundamentals training, then you can start to experience a bit of like the sparring, or how do you do it? Like, is it integrated in the training? Like,
Yeah, so I think like I've struggled to enforce any particular rules like that over my 10 years of running a school.
Yeah.
Tell you why, because everyone's different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's some 15, 16-year-olds that come in and get it and don't crap themselves under a little bit of pressure.
Okay.
You know, and love the ruckus. Go put a rugby union player and get him to grapple, and he can grapple.
Yeah.
He can grapple, but he doesn't understand jiu-jitsu. No, but he can grapple. And he doesn't crap himself, and he's safe for the most part. You know, if you tell him not to pull fingers back and not to poke eyeballs and stuff like that, like they're generally pretty safe, right? So somebody like that, take a class or two, learn a break fall, learn how to forward roll over your head, learn what the tap rule is, and they can start making it work a lot quicker than, say, a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old who hasn't trained for a while, hasn't moved, is pretty stiff, has a few existing injuries, is shitting themselves about the idea of learning a martial art. Those people, person 1 and person 2, have a completely different journey in jiu-jitsu. So as a school, like, I know I should be like systemizing things and like, everything, but I think, where me as well, I meet most people who get started at Higher Jiu-Jitsu, and I can see them, I can feel them, so I'll talk to the coaches. We have a little thing at Higher now, so if you've noticed, we put some red tape on someone's belt.
Yeah.
So like there's some new students at the moment with red tape on their belt. So you, Mr. Winston, as a blue belt, come in, you see the red tape, you're like, oh, you're just getting started. Let's play, I'll show you what to do here, I'll show you what I'm trying to do there, and you assume that they're beginners, and they are, Well, after the red tape, after 10 classes of red tape, it goes to 10 classes there or thereabouts of yellow tape.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you might have seen some yellow tapers as well. Yeah. And then after the yellow tape, about 10 classes, say there's 10,
Full
20,
rolls.
25 classes, then they get their first stripe.
Oh.
So their first stripe, they can
how many months in is usually to your first stripe?
First stripe is like 2-3 months in.
Yeah.
Just depends, man. Some people come into 5 classes a week, or some people want to do 1 class a week for so it just depends again. But you get a feel, people get a feel for it. It just takes time, and thrusting people right into the chaos early on. I think it's fun for the people, but at the same time, I think it could be, it's not the most effective way of getting started with training.
Oh, I see. So, like, your advice to new practitioners, like, say somebody who's like really has been watching a bit of jiu-jitsu lately on comps, and now there are more jiu-jitsu competitions coming up now. I realize more than not only just MMA, but how does one maybe start jiu-jitsu? What are some of the recommendations? Advice, just general advice.
Yeah. So I think it's important for the person to become aware of where they're at, right? So if I was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being shitting your pants and 10 being like, I'm ready, where are you at? Like how ready, how willing are you, how able are you to start training? How confident are you to do this.
And how does
I ask people that when they start, and they're
what
like,
do they say?
I ask them like if like on the lead inquiry.
Oh.
And sometimes I can see pre-existing injuries. I can see some notes that they've written. If you're like less than 5, then I think you need to start in like a real basics class.
Yeah.
And just be in the room. Just get comfortable being in the room. Leave the grappling aside, like, because you don't need that. Like in the beginning,
Yes.
it's only gonna scare them off.
Yeah.
Because they like a newbie who's pretty like tentative will come into our room in an advanced class and be like, what are these guys doing? It looks like they're killing each other. Like there's sweat going everywhere and they're on top of each other. Yuck! Like I don't want to do jiu-jitsu. Yuck! But they don't have to do that. Their first initiation in jiu-jitsu doesn't have to be there.
Yeah,
so if they're like less than 5
Yeah.
in like confidence of starting jiu-jitsu, I'd hook them up with like an intro class or like foundations class, basics class, where they don't have to grapple, but they're just learning the fundamental concepts of jiu-jitsu. If you're like over 7, like if you're like a 7 or 8, I'm ready to go, let's do it. Usually young people, you can just throw them in there and they'll swim. You can throw them into the deep end and they'll swim. I was 18, 19 when I started jiu-jitsu, and I got thrown into the deep end really hard. They said, first class, okay, now you're going to grapple. They taught me 2 techniques. Okay, now you're going to grapple. If anything happens, don't pull fingers, don't slam, don't eye gouge. If someone taps you, let go. Go. And then I ate shit for the first many months, years, but I came back for more every single time. I loved it because I was 18, 19. I was full of energy. I was full of I had muscles. I was I was ready. I had hunger, to beat people and to do that stuff. But right now, if you pull me, I'm 36 in a few days. Got 3 kids. I've got some injuries that I'm dealing with now. If I had to go through that same storm to get to where I am now, I might not be able. I might not do that because I'm in a different situation now.
So say my uncle actually asked me this question, and he's over 65, I think 60s. I think he probably finds he's a very intellectual person. He used to be a CIO of a chief officer of a bank and an airline company back in Malaysia. And he was asking me this question of how does one get to understand more about jiu-jitsu safe way? As you mentioned, everyone has got different kind of they're coming from different situations, different body situations, life situations, age. How do you? What's the general guide of testing whether jiu-jitsu is for you? Maybe as a 60-year-old, let's just use that.
Man, call me stupid, but I think it is for a 60-year-old. I think jiu-jitsu is, if I'm honest with you, man, I think jiu-jitsu is for everybody. And yes, of course it's for them. Because as a 60-year-old, imagine learning how to use your body better as a 60-year-old. Do you know what I mean? Imagine learning how to fall safely as a 60-year-old. Imagine getting a bit of a sweat going every day as a 60-year-old, Imagine hanging out with mates on the mats and having a laugh every day as a 60-year-old. These are all huge benefits to quality of life. At a time as 60 when this is what's you're tanking.
It looks like you're gonna tank.
Physically, people tank.
Yeah, and then you see some people like bodybuilders, best shape of their life. What's the difference? Can you make?
You know what the difference is? What they do day in, day out. And 60-year-olds that are tanking are driving a lot and sitting at desks a lot and sitting on the couch a lot.
Doing a bit of running is not gonna really.
Well, doing running. Let's say I go for 30 minutes a day. I go for
a run.
I go for a walk or a run. But
That's
then the other 23 and a half hours, I'm very sedentary. So
yeah, and what about your upper body? And that's all health, right? As well, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, it is health. But I think jiu-jitsu is beyond that as well. Because this is the beauty of jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, that differs from what you're going to do in the gym, and that I think personally differs in different styles of jiu-jitsu as well, because Master Pedro helped me understand this like better than anybody else has. We're learning how to use the skeleton in jiu-jitsu, and that's very different from focusing on like the muscles.
Muscles, right? Yeah. No.
It's a huge, profound difference.
Okay.
The skeleton is like what gives us shape. Do you know what I mean? And the skeleton, we carry it around with us all the time.
Can you show me an example?
Like just framing, framing like,
Framing.
I can show you now, but like,
Yeah.
you're in a bear hug, and I'm just my base. My base is an example of how to use my skeleton.
Demo.
Well, sitting like this.
Yeah.
So right now, like my head and the brains in my head, not many of them, but like, and my body is the weight of my body is over this side.
I see. Yeah.
So there's nothing really like supporting me right now. This is supporting me,
Yes.
but I don't have any alignment through my skeleton. So if I think about how to sit properly here, I might think about keeping my head in between my shoulders, not like this. I might think about keeping my shoulders over my hips.
Okay.
I might think about the length of my spine. I might think about how I'm sitting on my pelvis here.
Yeah.
Am I rolling in here and kind of slouching, or am I opening up maybe too much here? So how do I get comfortable on the sit bones? How do I feel with my my hip joints to my knee joints? Am I kind of like slouching? Am I like this? Am I like? We're thinking about alignment. We're thinking about your body in all these different positions, and we think about this. We study this on the mats when somebody's attacking you, like when someone's trying to be on top of you, or someone's grabbing you like this, or someone's grabbing you like that. We think about alignment, and we think about alignment dynamically, right? But alignment is everywhere, because like you're taking your skeleton with you everywhere you go. So that 60-year-old, your dad, let's say, or uncle, was it?
Yeah.
Uncle, by doing jiu-jitsu, he might learn how to get up off the bed better. Don't you learn how do you get up out of bed in the morning?
I don't know. I just roll over.
I bet you do hip escapes to get out of bed. Or,
I don't know.
I do teeter-totters. Every time I get out of bed, it's a teeter-totter. You see it. Get out of bed tomorrow morning, and be like, and take
Yeah,
note of it.
I do.
I always use my leg. I use my leg on the side on the edge of the bed, and like pull myself up like that, because I'm using a counterbalance, right? I'm pushing into the bed to pull my head up.
So you're saying that they can get like more mobility and the enjoyment of the life, basically.
So what in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is jiu-jitsu affords like such a better, more in-depth awareness of your body and its capabilities, and the way to utilize it in the best way possible. That's what I think is awesome. So your 60-year-old uncle can benefit from it. My 4-year-old son can benefit from it. Like everyone can benefit from that, because everyone uses a body to get through this life.
And how can he get into it safely?
Safely, like as I said, how do you find the class that scrapes the sides of the bowl? You know what I mean? Like, so
Foundation.
if I'm honest with you, I think what I've started doing is offering intro like sessions with. If your uncle was to come in, I'd offer him an intro session as a private.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And slowly acquaint him to the room.
That's what I said to her.
In future, we're creating like our foundations program. So we do have a fundamentals, and we have like an all levels, and then we have like our advanced sessions, right?
Yeah.
So our fundamentals class, I'd recommend your uncle to come into that, because it's going to be slower. We're going to focus on the basic concepts of jiu-jitsu. And the thing is, I've thought about this a lot. Like, how does your uncle find relevance? How does he make jiu-jitsu relevant in his life? It's very rarely he's not really wanting to learn a sport. He's beyond learning a sport. He's there to learn it as a means of self-defense first. Because that makes more sense to your 60-year-old uncle.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the sport, doesn't care about the points, he doesn't care about medals. Like, it's so far beyond your uncle. Doesn't give a shit about that. What he cares about is how to make his life better with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So if you say, when somebody grabs you like this from behind, he's still practicing the movements, and he's still finding connections, he's still finding his base, he's still working leverage, but he's solving a problem that would have more relevance in his life. then hey, to avoid someone taking 3 points on you, this is what you have. You put your knee here, you put your leg there. He's like, what the fuck? How does 3 points matter? Sorry, I just swore. What does 3 points matter to him? Do you know what I mean? And that's where this idea of self-defense comes into it as well.
Yeah, so I think you touched some really, really interesting points there, like again, self-defense and some better health. And I think one of the things maybe is it's also just really fun game to play, right? Like it's like a sport, right? It's a game between two individuals who are trying to outdo each other's puzzles, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's I think you can see it. You can see this idea of self-defense versus sport.
Yeah.
But I think it's one and the same thing, if I'm honest with you, Winston. Because when you're playing the sport, do you want someone to break your arms when you're playing the sport?
No.
Do you want someone to choke you when you're playing the sport? So you have to protect yourself first.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about jiu-jitsu. Like, that's what self-defense is. Like, self-preservation. Do you want to get injured when you're having that sport level?
It's learning self-defense while having fun like a game.
Yes.
In a way.
Yes. But, like, the game doesn't really make sense at the beginning for a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? Like, for the everyday person, not the athlete. The athlete understands. The athlete wants medals. How do I win the medal? How do I win that comp?
Yeah.
Well, pass the guy's legs, pin him, and submit him. Okay, done. How does the everyday person get relevance? Like, when the medal isn't the priority. Well, this is how you look after yourself. This is self-preservation.
And look after your girlfriend too.
Yes, look after your kids. Look after everyone around you. Like, have skills that apply to everyday life.
There's a saying that like there's something about the ocean and you're the only one shark being able to swim through it. Do you know this? This
apparently that's Carlos Machado that said that. He goes, when they're separated, he goes like it's your world, but when we come together in the clinch, and we will go to the ground, and when we go to the ground is my ocean, and most people don't know how to swim. There or thereabouts. Shahaz created a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Shibusa, and it's a mad.
It's
mad. It's a beautiful T-shirt.
I really want to get it.
It references that quote.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful quote, right? It's an awesome quote.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, so the bit when the fight comes to the ground is my ocean.
And most people don't know how to swim.
And most people don't know how to swim.
But I would extend that, and I'd be like, anytime you connect.
Anytime you connect with someone.
Yeah, so like if you're in a T-position clinch with somebody...
Even touching, like I think
now we're connected.
A regular person is not really used to this.
You know what to do here to take my back. You can take my back.
Yeah, here I feel very safe. Like and you're quite safe too because we understand distance.
Yeah. And you're behind my elbow now. So
that's
if you wanted me to hit you,
it's really hard.
I can't hit you right now because you're behind my elbow. Yeah. You understand that.
Would it be better for me to get your elbow or your wrist?
Like here,
your lever, this one, but you can pull that.
I can pull that back as well, but this is less distance towards my back.
Oh,
so it's kind of like a little like a ladder that you're trying to climb up to. But what's the goal here? Is the goal to take my back, or is the goal not to get hit in the head? If the goal is not to get hit in the head, then
manage distance.
Manage the distance, But then make a connection, So then as you make that connection, now like, am I pulling? Am I pushing?
Yeah.
And that's we find that ability to feel. There's this Jewish proverb that's like a fool cannot feel. And I bet your uncle who's 60 years old has never done jiu-jitsu can't really feel connection with somebody, as in like physically connect to somebody else, doesn't know what to feel. Whereas when we come to jiu-jitsu and like I'm like, okay, everyone lift your hips up in the air and then push through the right leg to upa over the left shoulder. Then they're like, where's my weight? My weight's in the middle, now it has to go to the right to go to the left, So we're solving problems even in training that an everyday person wouldn't solve without jiu-jitsu. We're moving in ways that everyday people just don't really ever have to move in.
And did you have to use like the self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu in your life of 36 years?
Yeah. I use the philosophy every day. Because if I think of jiu-jitsu, if I think of self-defense as a particular set of techniques, then The last time I had a fight was when I was like 16, and my mates were talking shit to a fellow on the street, and there was an all-in brawl. Like that was the last time I had a scrap, you know.
Yeah.
Since then, like I'm not the guy to go around and cause trouble. I don't look for trouble.
Yeah.
And I've managed to keep myself away from it. In saying that, you know, I remember a few years ago I was on the beach with my son and my wife, and a fella like started coming. He was walking along the shore, and then started coming towards us. And it was like a big, strong dude with tattoos everywhere. And I was like, I kind of stereotyped a little bit just because I was using my jiu-jitsu brain. And I was like, well, what's going on here? And he was coming our way for no reason. Yeah. So what did I do? I stood up and I put my hands like close in front of my head. That's me using jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And he goes, hey brother, I just want to tell you there's a couple over there naked and having sex. He goes, so be careful with your kid and your missus, don't go anywhere near there.
Oh my god.
And then my hands are up there, you know, and I was like, oh yeah, no worries, mate. I'm not, like, thank you for the heads up, you know, because no one wants to see that, you know.
I mean, yeah, you wouldn't mind it,
but the thing is, like, I was looking after myself because I knew this idea of jiu-jitsu. Like my hands were up because I didn't know.
And I don't think anybody want to mess with you anyway because you look,
dude, I'm not
you look really difficult to take down because of your wrestling.
Yeah, but there's bigger people, bigger, stronger people.
Yeah, they don't just want to mess with any. They rather mess with small guys.
Well, and that's what jiu-jitsu is, man. Like it's a feeling that I have. Like I feel that if somebody wanted to pick a fight with me, then I know the ABC of defending myself.
And you know the feeling, right?
I know the feeling. Like I've been there before because we do this every day. In jiu-jitsu, like on the mats at Willow, we mimic conflict every day. You know what I mean? Yes. And so now when someone's walking, I use jiu-jitsu without even talking, without like by the way I express myself, the way I represent myself when I'm walking. Probably my chest is a lot higher, probably because I'm confident. I'm not scared. I'm not worried that, you know, someone might jump me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm okay. Like, of course I'm cautious, but I'm not like, you know, shy. I'm not like, you know, scared. Yeah. So my shoulders aren't rounded forward. Like, you know, I'm looking forward. My head is up. I'm not looking down all the time because I don't know. I'm happy. And jiu-jitsu, I've just been grappling my mates and just had a mad sweat out at Higher, and I'm full of happy hormones, and I'm enjoying the day. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not worried. I'm not scared. Like that's how we use jiu-jitsu as well, in how we use in everyday life. Do you know what I mean? So like, there's many different applications of jiu-jitsu. I use it with my wife.
Oh, really?
She gave me a look last night, and I looked at it. I was like, "That's a dangerous look." Okay. So I'm gonna yield right now, and I'm gonna do as she says, because otherwise I'm gonna get my head beaten in. Yeah. You feel me? Like I use jiu-jitsu by assessing situations and seeing what's the best way to move forward. It's in the most effective way and the most efficient way. Do you know what I mean? Like it's jiu-jitsu is like solving problems. Yeah. It's with leverage.
It's like chess, yeah, like a bit like that. Like in chess you have to think before your next move. You know. Yeah. In a way, jiu-jitsu is about that, right? You have to think before to progress to the next position. You're like, all right, this guy's moving his arm here. I probably have an escape pathway under his armpit now, and like, you know, something like that.
I see that. I see that a lot. You know why? Because when I'm playing chess, it's not just what I'm doing. Like, I have to look, oh shit, if I move this one, then Winston can take my pawn. You know, if I move this way, then my bishop's going to get taken over there. Yeah. Or I need to protect my king over here. That's why I'm not going to move this one. So you're kind of, you're looking into the future and you're foreseeing what's going to happen. Yes. So you have to do what you have, use what you have now to make your life better in the future. Yeah, based on the current situation, right? Your position. Yep. These are your choices. That's it. Like, you can't make choices outside of that position that you're in, unless you move there. Yep. Does it make sense? 100%. You know, and like, just like I was stuck under side control today. Yeah. And I'm like, if I escape into the person and they're driving into me, that's not going to work, and then my arm might get exposed. Let's say. So let me just hold onto my arm, and then, you know, they started pulling, and then I went to get back to guard. So there's a right time to apply the right move, you know, and that's something that jiu-jitsu teaches you as well. Like there's opportunity and then there's timing.
Okay.
The right move at the right time is the right move.
Yeah.
And I think that helps us understand that like dynamically. We practice jiu-jitsu like on the mats when we're looking. We practice jiu-jitsu like through chokes and throws and arm locks and submissions and sweeps and all of that. But the bigger lesson in jiu-jitsu is like applying everything we learn on the mats and taking them off the mats. And that's what my teachers help me understand. That's what Phil helps me understand. That's what Pedro has helped me understand. And that's what I think is the most important part of jiu-jitsu. So there's sometimes, Winston, like some people talk negatively of instructors or classes that try to join the dots. But if you see it as a sport only, then you only want the move. But if you see it as a lifestyle, as a philosophy, as a martial art, as a way of life, then it's okay, I think, to connect the dots, or at least to kind of help people become aware of the power of this. How can you use this to greater effect? Not just to strangle the fella, but how do we put the two together? And that's what I love. After 16 years of training, like I've seen a lot of sweeps, I've seen a lot of techniques, concepts, all of that. But like, I'd love to see what do we do on the mats, and how can we apply that off the mats?
That is awesome. I think with that, taking the lessons of BJJ off the mats, something I've also been practicing on my daily life since I encountered it.
How?
About 5-6 years ago. I'm like, yeah, it's transformed the way I think about problem solving. In my work, as I was training to be an engineer back 5-6 years ago, I was like I was doing a coding boot camp to understand like full stack development, and this was in Melbourne when I encountered jiu-jitsu, because I was just trying to solve my own problem of not doing any exercise because everything wasn't engaging.
Yeah.
And when I stepped into the gym in Melbourne, kind of be jiu-jitsu, it was the experience which I learned from just the first class taught me that how much I just don't know about life in general. I had no idea. I was trying to put all my attacks on. I was allowed to roll in this sesh because I was going against a brown belt. He was guiding me through the fundamentals class. Yeah. And he was such a nice guy. He was a firefighter in Melbourne, and he said you can put any move on me except no gouging, no scratching, no punching. And I had myself in like a open guard position, and I tried to choke him from that position. I have no idea what I was doing. Completely tired myself out, and I enjoyed it so much. And I knew how little I knew by continuing to go to class and learning techniques to solve the problems I was encountering. I learned that the techniques were so takes time. Yeah. Takes patience. Jiu-jitsu is hard, and it's just taught me how to persevere. I say, and think more creatively, more positionally about from a strategic point of view. Always think about your position. Yeah. And options that are in front of you, and if you just even apply that in life, it's just like playing chess in life.
Yeah, it's not all attack, right? It's like there's some times that you need to like back, sometimes you need to hit. Yep. It's discern each situation and see what's the right move at the right time.
Yeah, and that's right. And you have only a number of options in front of you. You have to assess them and then just make the right one with the highest percentage of success. Yeah. I think that's it. I think we probably ran.
I got a teens class.
Yeah, you're a teens class. All right. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on, man. I love what you're doing, and I enjoyed the conversation today. And I love having you as part of Higher, and you're a legend. And
thank you.
I know that whoever pairs up with you is safe. Is going to learn, and you come with the right vibes, the right intention to class, and that's why you're an awesome student to have. And I appreciate you listening.
Thank you so much, John, for the podcast.
Cheers, man.
Love you, buddy.